Hello and welcome to Agenda 2030. I am Toyin Nkamiang John. In the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, strategic partnership stands as the fulcrum around which the implementation of the agenda revolves. On the program today, we will be bringing to you some of the strategic partnerships by the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs with the stakeholders in the quest to attain the SDGs. Do stay with us.
Agenda 2030. As a successor framework for the Millennium Development Goals, the global community rolled out a bigger, deeper, and more encompassing framework called the Sustainable Development Goals, designed to transform our world, lift the poor out of poverty, as well as ensure inclusive and healthy society. On Agenda 2030, we take you on a media trip to the global destination of the future we want. With everyone on board, we focus on the people and their struggle, the civil society and their agitations, the government and her development effort, the global development agenda, its 17 goals and 169 targets. We bring you all the deliberations, insightful conversations, and high-level partnerships on the road to global destination. Agenda 2030, showing on this channel. Agenda 2030, leaving no one behind.
The Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goals has launched the Nigeria Sustainable Development Goals Implementation Plan 2020 to 2030 with the support from the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP. The launch took place in Abuja during the convening of state actors for the advocacy and capacity building workshop on SDGs mainstreaming at a subnational level in Nigeria. The Nigeria Sustainable Development Goals Implementation Plan 2020 to 2030 provides a comprehensive roadmap for national and subnational governments, as well as diverse stakeholders in the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals in Nigeria. The launch took place in Abuja during the convening of state actors for the advocacy and capacity building workshop on SDGs mainstreaming at the subnational level in Nigeria. Princess Adejoke Arolokwe Adefulure, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goals, stated that the launch of the technical publication is another demonstration of the commitment to the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development by President Muhammadu Buhari's administration through her office. Speaking on the advocacy, sensitization, and capacity building at the subnational level in Nigeria, the Presidential Advisor on SDGs re-emphasized the importance of effectively galvanizing all the stakeholders for the effective implementation of the goals.
Indeed, this engagement is a conscious attempt of supporting the state governments at subnational level to prioritize and mainstream SDG into their medium and long-term development policies and plans. This year, 2021, is a landmark year for us as we commence the second phase of scaling up implementation in the decade of action for the global goals. This will involve strengthening the capacity of the state officials to conceptualize, integrate, and implement the SDG at the subnational level, with the aim of ensuring that no Nigeria is left behind. Additionally, subnational governments should play a key role in data collection and monitoring relating to the SDGs. Hence, the process of bringing the SDG to the local level, vice versa, is considered to be top-down and bottom-up approaches. This enhances vertical and horizontal policy coherence and contributes to the transformative change that is embedded in 2030 agenda. Subnational governments are expected to prepare to implement the SDG in communities by conducting needs assessment to define priorities, engaging in cooperative governance to establish shared priorities, aligning local and regional plans with the SDG, and mobilizing local resources, building capacity for effective and responsive leadership, and promoting ownership and sustainability.
Building on the foundation which has been laid at the national level, the workshops will serve as key first steps in strengthening SDG-based development planning at the state level in Nigeria. Stakeholders from the Federal Capital Territory and from each state in Nigeria were represented in Abuja to participate in the strategic programs.
To raise living standards, reduce poverty, and provide better opportunity for Nigerian teeming youth, we require an inclusive and broad-based approach from all the stakeholders concerned, especially at the sub-national level, the national government, to take full ownership and see how we can come together at the national and sub-national to support our youth, to create youth employment and reduce unemployment among our youth all over the country. And of course, I will also use this opportunity to encourage the sub-national government to take full ownership of this development agenda, and that will take care of all the needs.
The launch was highly decorated with the presence of dignitaries and key stakeholders to display their commitment to the attainment of the goals. Chiefly among them were the United Nations Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator in Nigeria, Mr. Edward Callon, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goals, Princess Adejoke Olulope Adefulere, the Statistician General of the Federation and Chief Executive Officer of the National Bureau of Statistics, Dr. Yemi Kale, represented by the Director of Corporate Planning and Technical, Mr. Simon Harry, the UNDP Resident Representative, represented by the UNDP Senior Economic Advisor, Dr. Amarakon Bandara, the Chairman of the Private Sector Advisory Group on Sustainable Development Goals, Bolaji Balogun. Also present were the State Commissioners of Budget and Economic Planning, State Statistician Generals, and State SDGs focal persons, amongst other stakeholders. Generally, the speaker stressed the importance of proper mainstreaming to the SDGs to state development plans that will engender effective implementation of the agenda.
For the achievement of Agenda 2030, it is important to raise awareness and sensitize all stakeholders, not only at the federal level, but down to the sub-national level, to ensure that everyone is on board. One way of doing this is what is happening here today, and that is the advocacy and inclusion of SDGs at the planning levels. I am informed that 7 states are in this workshop, and these 7 states are in the process of developing their SDG-based development plans, which is a step in the right direction. Achievement of Agenda 2030 requires inclusiveness and participation at different levels, including the subnational level.
The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, were adopted during the 70th session of the United Nations General Assembly, UNGA, on September 25, 2015. With the adoption of the SDGs, world leaders have set bold and ambitious targets for the inclusive, prosperous, equitable, just, and peaceful world. Indeed, this vision is underpinned by the 5 pillars of sustainable development, which is people, peace, prosperity, partnership, and planet. Brought together, the SDGs are a universal call to action to end poverty, safeguard the planet, and ensure all people enjoy peace and prosperity by the year 2030. With the recognition that the Sustainable Development Goals cannot be achieved with public sector efforts alone, the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs has, in line with the principles of partnership as elucidated in Goal 17, been collaborating with both state and non-state actors. The premium placed on the need for active participation of non-state actors necessitated the inauguration of the Private Sector Advisory Group, and the strategic platform is charged with the responsibility of mobilizing expertise and financial resources from critical non-state actors towards the achievement of the SDGs in Nigeria. The objectives of the partnership was again recently demonstrated when the management of Lafarge paid a courtesy call on the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs to deliberate on areas of further partnerships as they collectively intensify efforts towards the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals in Nigeria. Unlike the Millennium Development Goals, the successful implementation of the SDGs heavily rests on strategic partnership across vertical and horizontal strata. Since the commencement of the implementation, Nigeria has been mobilizing all stakeholders for sustainable partnerships. In order to better align public-private partnership for sustainable development in Nigeria and also mirror the Global Private Sector Advisory Group (PSAG), the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs has set up Nigeria Private Sector Advisory Group, whose membership includes private businesses, leaders of major companies from various industries in Nigeria, and the President of the National Association of Small and Medium Enterprise, as well as Chambers of Commerce.
The public sector alone cannot, if truly we want to achieve SDG, cannot achieve it. So we have to work together with the private sector. And that was why the first agenda of this office is to see how we mobilize the private sector and appointed them. That was February 2017. We did that. We have the civil society organization also as a strong supporter, and the Presidential Council on SDGs. So all those institutional framework has been done, and all other action plan or all of that we have done. And of course, from 2 years after the adoption of the SDG, we rendered our first voluntary national report in 2017 and UN, and was highly commended. Also working with all the head of government at sub-national level and the head of the government and the ministerial department and agency of government, working also with the civil society organization and other critical partner, United Nations, donor agencies, and all of that.
It was in this regard that the management of Lafarge Africa PLC, a leading cement manufacturing company in the country, with about 4 million Nigerians directly and indirectly on its employ, recently visited the office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs, led by its chairman, Prince, and ably supported by the CEO, Managing Director Khalid Abdulaziz. The management of the cement conglomerate expressed their desire to collaborate with the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs to accelerate the achievement of the global goals in Nigeria.
The Sustainable Development Goals, as initiated by the United Nations, we are really part and parcel of it, not only because of the number of countries where we operate. We are a local company everywhere we are, because we mine and produce cement. Our locality and the people around us are very, very important to us. So when we begin to take the goals one by one, which is end poverty, that is the primary goal, really, of creating employment for people. We go to goal 3, which is ensure healthy lives and promote well-being of all ages. It's synonymous with having healthy workers work for you, having them promote their economic prosperity. You can go on and on and on and on. You see that a lot of the goals really is synonymous with the goals of getting human beings to be better in life.
The visitors also took time to update the management of OSAP SDGs on the operations in Nigeria, while they discussed possible areas of further collaboration to strengthen and enhance Nigeria's effort towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. They also commended the office on the effort made so far, adding that a more robust private sector partnership will help advance achievement of SDGs in Nigeria.
Partnership is the whole way for success. As private sector, we know very well that we can have our own small initiatives, but without Her Excellency and the office that directly reports to the President, that can give a lot of support, a lot of guidance, a lot of infrastructure and foundation for us where we can operate and deal more in partnership with other private sector to create this volume and mass to be able to make the difference on the ground.
When you talk of gender equality, you can look at our board. We have 11 board members, 5 are women. It's just not difficult for us. When you look at all the localities where we operate, we've always promoted education. Last year alone, we had the literacy competition in public schools, and when you check what we have done in the last 6-7 years, you see that we have impacted on 700,000 pupils of public schools in Nigeria. Endlessly, this company is here for the long run, and we are going to continue to look after the people of Nigeria, and these goals are all very paramount. So
we are sponsoring schooling in the north in Ashaka, and we are sponsoring the Young Girls Schools project, where we are supporting the education of young girls to see a brighter future on that. So education is one of the main domains. The other domain is environment, and we are very much involved in waste management, substitution of fuel by alternative means of fuel, in using the waste, in using rice husks, and so on.
Responding to the Lafarge team that despite the recent pandemic and current security challenges that have affected efforts to achieve SDGs in Nigeria, the office is not deterred in its bid to advance the goals of ensuring that Nigeria is not left behind in the race to the 2030 target date. She also said the office is always open to collaborations and will continue to work with Lafarge in a bid to advance the goals of 2030 agenda for sustainable development in Nigeria.
We are ready to support you and to give you partnership that you require. We are ready to work with you, and the private sector is in the heart of SDG. So private sector working with public sector will give us the maximum leverage that we require in achieving the SDGs.
Senior Technical Advisor at the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs, Dr. Bala Yunusa, took the Lafarge team through numerous ongoing interventions of SDGs that are already having positive impact on the lives of Nigerians across the country. Dr. Bala also noted that the office is working assiduously towards moving from funding to financing of the SDGs, stressing that public-private partnerships like this will be crucial in the new model. And the Private Sector Advisory Group has continued to push for the advancement of the Sustainable Development Goals and make massive positive impacts through their various interventions across the 17 goals. In their effort, the Private Sector Advisory Group and the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs are working out a collaboration to regenerate the basic education in Nigeria. We have a report. The Regenerating Basic Education in Nigeria program seeks to leverage private sector capital to address the funding challenges facing the Nigerian education sector. The program will focus on the development of inclusive basic education infrastructure and capacity in each of the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory, addressing 4 key areas per school, namely education infrastructure, technology and learning tools, curriculum development, and retraining of teachers.
We are glad to have the Private Sector Advisory Group for SDG membership around the office to also follow up on the proposal for the generation of basic education in Nigeria, trying to see how the private sector can support the government of Nigeria to accelerate the achievement of SDG, especially in education and health sector. Of course, to also ensure that we have quality education for our children, to prepare them today for their tomorrow and invest in them today is a welcome development, and what the private sector is proposing is a very, very sustainable program that will stand the test of time.
And what we're looking to do essentially is to create a tax incentive structure that basically encourages a variety of private sector companies to intervene in 5 critical areas. Intervening around educational infrastructure, intervening around learning aids and technological tools in education, intervening around how we bring the curriculum into the 21st century and Nigerian children are better prepared for the future, intervening around how we can get more out of school children into school enrollment in Nigeria. And these are, some of the key focus areas.
Companies operating and paying taxes in Nigeria, individuals resident and paying taxes in Nigeria, non-resident Nigerians, and philanthropy supporters who want to support Nigerian education initiatives are all targeted as key participants. In implementation, the Federal Ministry of Education, in collaboration with SUBEP and the Program Trust, will select a total of 740 schools spread equally across all 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory, while the Private Sector Advisory Group on SDGs, PSAG, will mobilize private sector partners, PSP, towards implementation of the program. Each PSP will be required to commit a minimum contribution of 100,000 naira over a 3-year period to address designated areas per school. Each PSP will be entitled to a 100% tax credit on the equivalent amount expensed on the project annually as an incentive.
The objective essentially is that, each company will become a private sector partner to a school or a number of schools. The original phase of the project will be 740 schools spread around all the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory. And each private sector partner will invest a particular sum of money over a 3-year period under the administration of the Regenerating Basic Education in Nigeria Trust. That trust will include representatives of public and private sector. It will be responsible for administering the process and superintending the process and ensuring the execution of all of the objectives that we've set. When you think about the amount of money that goes into basic education every year in Nigeria, if you can create an intervention like this, which has the ability to attract tens of billions of naira into basic education, it can be quite pivotal in terms of the quality, of...
The Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs and the Ministry of Education, the stakeholders pledged their commitment.
The overall summary of this is about working together in synergy, public and private working together. So one thing that we need to emphasize on and to be mindful is that government alone cannot do everything. And government alone cannot fund education. Although we have private university, private secondary school and all of that, but still not enough. And the public sector education, which is the public, that people categorize as children of the poor or schools, must be regenerated. And that's exactly where the private sector is coming in to assist, to support the government in ensuring that we regenerate the schools. We look at the curriculum, upgrade the curriculum, of course also to see how the training of teachers will be frequent and regular, and the teaching aids are provided in schools. So those are the area of intervention, and is a welcome development.
Remember, you can always watch the program and other episodes by subscribing to our YouTube channels on youtube.com/FreshNewsNG and youtube.com/Agenda 2030 TV. You can also watch the program live on Facebook. Just log on to www.facebook.com/FreshNewsNG and www.facebook.com/Agenda 2030 TV. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Agenda 2030 TV on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Remember to drop your comments and share with your contacts. Do use the hashtag Agenda 2030 and hashtag Agenda 2030 TV.
Agenda 2030. As a successor framework for the Millennium Development Goals, the global community rolled out a bigger, deeper, and more encompassing framework called the Sustainable Development Goals, designed to transform our world, lift the poor out of poverty, as well as ensure inclusive and healthy society. On Agenda 2030, we take you on a media trip to the global destination of the future we want, with everyone on board. We focus on the people and their struggle, the civil society and their agitations, the government and her development effort, the global development agenda, its 17 goals and 169 targets. We bring you all the deliberations, insightful conversations, and high-level partnerships on the road to global destination. Agenda 2030, showing on this channel. Agenda 2030, leaving no one behind.
And that's how much we can take on the program today. Do keep a date with us again next week for another insightful episode. I am Tony Nkamian John. Thank you for staying with us.
wannan labarin ma yana peji na 36.
Ita kuma babban labarin wannan jarida shine ainihin
labarin da ke gaban jarida shine ta bayyana cewa
ọkwa ji ikenga eziokwu
nwanne m nwoke
Ikechukwu Ndukwe Igbo
mam iji wee mee ka ụbọchị na-aga n'anya ya
ọjọ́ léwútẹ́lú nù.
nation fún ti òwúrọ̀ yìí ibẹ̀ náà ti sọ pé àwọn ìgbìmọ̀ aláṣẹ ìpínlẹ̀ Benue pàṣẹ wípé.
ní gbogbo àwọn ẹ̀ka ní ẹ̀ka ètò ẹ̀kọ́ ní ẹ̀ka ètò ìlera ní ẹ̀ka ètò ààbò.
Selfishness is one word that is often considered negative. True. But do you know that there are moments when the same word is not only considered positive, but actually encouraged to be used? Yes, it is true. Find out how and when selfishness is acceptable from our delectable, bold, and very vocal ladies, only on Conversations. Join us this Wednesday at 9 a.m. and be a part of this conversation on NTA.
Welcome to Abuja, the place that unites Nigeria.
This is the network service of the NTA.
Blood transfusion is an indispensable component of healthcare. It contributes to saving millions of lives each year in both routine and emergency situations, permits increasingly complex medical and surgical interventions, and dramatically improves the life expectancy and quality of life of patients with a variety of acute and chronic conditions. Patients who require transfusion as part of their clinical management have the right to expect that sufficient blood will be available to meet their needs and to receive the safest blood possible. However, many patients still die or suffer unnecessarily because they do not have access to safe blood transfusion. The timely availability of safe blood and blood products is essential in all health facilities where blood transfusion is performed. But in many developing countries, there is a widespread shortfall between blood requirements and blood supplies. How do we change the narrative in this part of the world? That's our focus on this week's episode of Health Options. Cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR, is a life-saving technique that is useful in many emergencies such as a heart attack or near drowning in which someone's breathing or heartbeat has stopped. You will get to learn how to perform CPR if you join us on our complimentary segment. This is Health Options, and I thank you for joining us on the program. I am Rabi Abdullah. Let's take a look at this vox pop on Nigerians and voluntary blood donation culture put together by Salwa Ibrahim Khalil.
Personally, I'm against donating for people I do not know.
No, I never donate blood for my life.
Why?
I don't want to lose my blood because I'm not getting money to replace it back.
Maybe subsequently I might donate, but for now, I don't think I have enough blood for that.
They say that the more you donate, the more fresh one comes in. Maybe with time, I will get to try that, but I've not given it a thought for.
When I donate, the following day, I sleep like a baby and I wake up like a baby. It's always good for me to do. And my inspiration is putting smile on somebody's face.
There's a need to sensitize the people on the need to voluntarily go out there and offer to donate this blood so that it is kept there safe for when the need arises.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Health Options, and we are taking a look at safe blood transfusion and sufficiency. And joining me for the discussion is the National Coordinator, National Blood Transfusion Service, Dr. Omale Joseph Amedu, MNI. Glad to have you join us on Health Options, Dr. Amedu.
Thank you, Rabi.
Blood, one critical element for human survival. Let's start, from the basics now. How important is safe blood?
Thank you very much. Like I have said, blood is life, and everything about every human being depends on blood. We require blood to transport oxygen, which we breathe in, to help the system in its processes. We also need blood to transport carbon dioxide from the inside outside, which is a byproduct of metabolism. The entire body system and all the major organs of the body depends really on oxygen to survive. So blood is life. And therefore, we require a very safe, high-quality blood to get the system going.
Can you enumerate some of those emergencies that require blood transfusion?
Thank you very much. Blood is required in virtually all aspects of emergencies. But specifically, let's look at many of our women who deliver in hospitals and bled a lot. Without blood, they can't survive. So we require them for maternal survival. We also require them for sickle cell disease, anemia, which is also very common in this part of the world. We require blood for road traffic accidents where people bled to death from various parts of their bodies. We require blood in cancer treatment. We require blood in these days of insurgencies, herdsmen, farmers clashes, communal clashes, political clashes that that get that to injury of those that participate. So blood is actually required. And even in routine surgeries, for obstetricians, when they go for CS, you have to get blood in place for them to do surgery. And these are all sort of areas that blood is needed. But again, we have a very big gap in terms of blood requirement in Nigeria today.
Wow, how big is the gap?
Oh, it's really very big because Nigeria requires a minimum of 2 million units of blood per annum. But right now, what we have is just under 500 units in a year. So the gap is really very much. And the reason being that people have a series of feelings towards donating blood. And donating blood by way of non-remuneration or free donation is actually the best form of blood that we look for. Again, if you get to many of our health facilities, you see people have replacement donation. When people's relations are in need of blood, that's when they go to the hospital to donate blood, which is not good enough. Of course, nobody prepares for emergencies. But because the emergency comes at each point in time, there's a need for every government, every organization to get ready to handle emergencies as they come. And that's why National Blood Transfusion Service is in place to ensure that Nigerian government has put in place this structure, this agency, to make sure that we regulate, we coordinate, and we ensure the provision of adequate, safe quality blood for Nigerians at any point in time. And when that is done, if you have a relation which is in the hospital, you don't have to worry about getting blood for the patient because the blood is already available, made available by Nigerians who donate blood freely.
Okay, let's focus our attention more on the voluntary blood donors now. Very, very essential. Who should donate blood?
Anybody who is in good health between age 18 and 65 should donate blood. Any woman who is not putting her period, or who is not breastfeeding, or who is not having any medical condition can donate. And the women donate 3 times in a year, and men donate 4 times in a year on 3-monthly basis.
For those who come forward, to donate, and those who are averse to it, what are some of the reasons you've been able to, because not everybody is too forthcoming with that?
I think some people don't really understand why they should donate. They don't feel that it's important for them to donate just for no reason. And some believe that in their tradition, they don't donate blood to people, and that blood is so sacred that they don't donate blood. So I may feel that if they donate blood, they will become incompetent probably in terms of their family life, in terms of their social life. So people have all sorts of myths and misunderstanding of why they should donate blood. But again, blood is a very safe commodity which can be used to save life. And so people should really understand that when somebody is losing blood, that person needs to be revived. And the only way the person can be revived is to give blood so that person can be saved. So the voluntary donation which we preach is to ensure that people actually understand the need to save other people's life and voluntarily come forward and donate without being coerced.
Okay, there's this misconception too that has to do with people thinking that if they give out, it shortens their own blood. Meanwhile, when you shed, from what I was made to understand, I'm a voluntary blood donor. When you shed, it gives you the opportunity to regenerate.
That's right.
So can you enlighten Nigerians on that?
Yes, that is very important because, ordinarily the blood cells in our system, they last for about 120 days. After this, they expired and they get dissolved and get into the system so that new blood can be manufactured. So people who donate blood, they actually renew their blood system. Because the more you donate regularly, the more your system becomes fresh because you are beginning to bring in fresh blood into your system. And those that voluntarily donate, they are much, much healthier. And because of their frequent donation, they are also able to avoid some high-risk attitude that will cause their system and their health that will affect their health. So, and that is why those who donate frequently, they are in better health condition. They avoid high-risk diseases.
They are more priority to their health status because screening has to be done.
That's
and
right.
a lot of things could be picked if there's anything wrong in the process.
Exactly.
Okay. Then Nigeria is a developing country, and in my introduction, I had said that there's a huge gap between supply and demand. Okay, and here, what do we find here? Is it a question of because we're talking about not just sufficiency now, but safe blood? Can you share our own scenario? What is playing out?
Thank you very much. In this part of the world, majority of the blood units we get are from commercial vendors. They are from family replacement. So they don't really go through a process of proper screening. And most health facilities, they use rapid screening. And when you use rapid screening, it doesn't give you that quality of blood you require. So what WHO has recommended and also is working the world over is the use of ELISA or high-tech, in the use of ACTEC. 1,000 aborted machines or maybe PCR, which will give you a high-quality blood. So once blood are not properly screened of transmissible infections, definitely they are not pure. So what WHO has recommended and what we are processing in Nigeria is to ensure that the 4 common infections, transmissible infections such as HIV, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, syphilis, malaria, in some countries, Chagas diseases are all screened so that the blood can be safe enough. So we're talking about safe, quality blood to be available to Nigerians, and that is what we're doing in NBTS. You can imagine what is happening at the war front at the military end, especially in the northeast, insurgencies.
Yes.
In fact, some of these our army officers, they die because there is no available blood for them at that point in time. So people need to come out and donate blood so we can store them for use when they are required.
We have some who are championing this cause, the likes of Nathan. You know, he's the highest blood donor in the country, and he's still a young man, and you know, we showcase him as a champion in that regard. But beyond that, what will you be saying to people who are eligible, you know, to donate?
Really, Nathan and other young Nigerians have actually sacrificed a lot. Nathan has donated about 67 times. Other donors have donated 65. In fact, in Lagos, you'll be surprised that somebody has already donated about 100 times. So again, the advantage we have in Nigeria is that we have a large population of the youth. And these are the people that should actually come to the aid of MBTS so they can donate blood. In fact, like I said, between age 18 and 65, even if you look under 50, in fact, over 50% of Nigerians are within that age group. So if the youths from all over the country are able to understand the need to donate because they want to save a life that they don't even know, then we're good to go.
Which of the blood group do you know is mostly scarce to get? And what will you be saying to those, you know, who belong to such blood group in terms of stimulating their consciousness to become voluntary blood donors?
Well, you know, you never can tell who will need blood. There are people who are in blood group A, some in AB, some in O. Now, of course, blood group O is a universal donor, and people usually go for that. And we are working on the hospital medical personnel to use what we call the appropriate clinical use of blood, so that give blood that is available to those that actually need those blood. For example, if you are blood group B positive and you have B positive being donated, instead of going for the O, which is universal donor, they should use B for those that are in B. Of course, we have some rare blood group like A negatives. So those who are either A negative or B negative or O negative, they should come forward and be on standby, not necessarily donating. If we have them and have their registrar and know how to get them, anytime to get them, it's important for us to have them on our records so that when those groups actually need blood, they are very scarce blood groups, and we can always call upon them to come and donate for their need. The blood we assess today are whole blood. But the better practices now are having blood components, either in form of plasma, in form of platelets, or in form of any of the components of blood which the patient needs. In this case, like when you are managing cases like sickle cell or cancer or any other disease apart from losing blood volume, you can use any of the components to treat the patient. And what we are doing at MBTS now is to go into the production of blood components. And beyond that, we also intend producing plasma-derived medicinal products, which are also on themselves drugs. So most of these rare drugs that are used for some of these rare cases like cancers, they are actually manufactured from blood products, and Nigeria can do it. And once that gets into it, of course, it will be a sort of even revenue generation for the country.
Okay, on a final note now, can you just share with us some of those local foods that we could readily take to boost our blood level?
If anyone who is actually have a normal 3 square meals and eating well, definitely will have the blood production going on. But of course, we encourage eating a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruits, eggs, guava, banana, plantain, And all these are all food sources that can contribute to the boost the immunity of the system, boost vitamins, and boost ions that will encourage the manufacturing of blood cells and other blood
What is the
components.
place of water in all of this?
Oh, water is the mother of the body itself. Because even the blood products, the blood component we're talking about, they are all in water. So the plasma. Plasma is a liquid that contains the blood cells, the blood salts, the blood ions, the blood vitamins, and the rest of them. So water is very important for every human being. And that's why when a donor comes to donate blood, we encourage them to take water, a lot of water, so they can replace the volume that's being removed in terms of giving out the blood, a unit of blood. So as they drink water and other liquid, they tend to replace the volume of blood in their system, which is very critical.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Amedu, for joining us on Health Options to discuss this very important issue. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Someone suddenly suffers a heart attack in your presence, what first aid knowledge do you have that can save the situation? Next on our lineup is how to perform cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR, on a victim of heart attack or similar emergencies.
As we all know, cardiac arrest can occur in anyone. And most common cause generally all over the world is related to cardiac issues. People who have a weak heart from whatever cause. But it's not only the heart that can cause arrest. Things like drowning, respiratory failure, or anything that overburdens the cardiovascular system can lead to arrest. The question is, what do you do when you see such an individual? 60 years of cardiopulmonary resuscitation. So it's been a long, many years. Unfortunately, for those of us who live in the third world, we still haven't developed systems that can reach everyone when somebody suffers a cardiac arrest. The most important thing in cardiac resuscitation is time. Time is life. Time is muscle. When you witness somebody who has suffered a cardiac arrest, you need to make a prompt assessment to see whether that person is actually breathing or not. If you are alone, the best thing you do is to call for help immediately and then approach the victim. Once you determine that that victim is not breathing, in the past we had a sequence of airway, breathing, but now that sequence has changed. The emphasis is now on CAB, which is compression, airway, and breathing. I'm passing through and just see somebody slumped on the floor. The first thing you do, hello? Hello? Are you okay? Are you okay? This man is not breathing now. The first thing, you cup your hand like this, and you press the chest. See how I'm pressing it? Each time you press, you lift your hand so that there'll be recoil. And you get a good depth. You do this 30 times before you give a breath. 30 times. See, you have to do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You get that up to 30 and you give a breath. As you are doing that, maybe you're lucky somebody, a passerby will come through and help you call the emergency response team. And once they come, as you are doing this also, because we don't want you to interrupt compression as much as possible. This is the key to resuscitation. You keep doing that, and somebody will bring that machine here, this machine, bring this machine, put the parts here, and then immediately it will tell you whether that person's rhythm is one that can respond to this. And once the machine is automatic, it tells you what to do. You put this on the chest, and you look at that, it says shock. You press this button. And then once it does that, you continue the compression. Don't stop. continue, and then you'll be looking at the rhythm. This is also a monitor. It will tell you whether the normal rhythm has returned or not. And then you look at the patient, he's making movement now, blood pressure is good, everything is good, rhythm has returned. The next thing is to take this patient to the nearest healthcare facility. And there are other things you do beyond this. If the patient is somebody who drowned, the emphasis on this will be less. The emphasis will be more on continuous compression and providing ventilation to that individual, because the reason for arrest is different in somebody whose arrest resulted from a bad heart, or somebody who drowned, or somebody like who's been exposed to certain chemicals and they have respiratory arrest. Should be learned by everybody.
Don't go beyond 30 counts?
No, 30, when you do 30, that's followed by one breath, a ventilation. However, if the medical emergency team arrives, they're usually more than 2 or 3, not just you. That helps because somebody else will be doing that, somebody else will try to get the airway, and when the airway is now in place, there will be less reason for you to be ventilating that individual, and the process will be, emphasis will be more on compression, the good quality compression. You understand? And then since there are more than 1 or 2, somebody will be calling for help, somebody will be getting access, somebody will be intubating, and you continue the compression. But the key is good quality compression and early use of this machine. So you keep doing that for a reasonable amount of time. And this person doesn't respond, that's not the end of it. Because if the person responds, depending on what the response is, the care continues after that. Because now there's what we call advanced cardiac life support system as well, which is also part of the CPRs. CPR is the basic thing. And then once that patient, once you determine that the patient's response is either way, these days there's something we call cerebral cooling, where that patient's brain is cooled below a certain temperature. So that, you know, when the temperature is below a certain level, the damage to the brain cells is minimized. So that's also part of it. And then if this ECG shows you there's evidence of damage to the heart muscle, the next thing will be to take that individual to the laboratory where we can do some tests called an angiogram to determine if there has been a blockage. Because if there's a blockage, the heart muscle doesn't get enough blood supply, you can arrest. And that can happen in your sleep, it can happen unannounced. If that is the case and we can get to that individual quickly, that artery can be opened. Once you restore blood flow to that heart muscle, you've seen an improvement.
That does it on this week's episode of Health Options. A quick reminder that you can go to our YouTube channel to watch the upload of these and other episodes of the program. Email us for your comments and contributions at healthoptions@nta.gov.ng. Don't forget to join the noble team of voluntary blood donors, because you never can tell who might be needing it, when and where. I remain yours, Rabi Abdullah. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you again.
Agebenu Omoha is a graduate of Benue State Polytechnic, Ubokolo, from the Department of Graphic Art. He is very passionate about his work and has made it a point of duty to add value to young and aspiring artists. He goes from school to teach different aspects of art expression.
This batik is being produced. The batik you see people wear, like the Yorubas and the Cameroonians wear most of the time, how they produce them. This is the processes on how they go about it. Like what you can see here are the materials. This is the one we melted. The reason why we melt this one is because there are some places you don't want a dye to absorb on the fabric. So you apply the wax on the fabric to make sure that the dye don't penetrate that place. That is the reason why we use the candle wax. As for the rest, they go together, but the candle wax stands alone. And for the brush you are seeing here, you can use the brush to use in making designs on the fabric. I'll spray the fabric and then we'll begin to apply the candle wax on the fabric. To dry for about 5 minutes, and then we'll prepare the dye stuff before we can dye it. Now this is the warm water that we're going to mix our dye chemicals in before dyeing. You don't have to allow the water to boil very well, because if it boils and it's very hot, when you dip this fabric in it, to melt the wax away. And then these are the dye stuff. We have two colors, one color. They are both green. So you pour everything in the water. Mix everything in the water. So the next thing you do now is to soak the fabric in the dye stuff that's already prepared. We are now soaking it. You can see the white area. That is the area of the candle wax. The candle did not allow the dye stuff to penetrate. To rinse it in this normal water. The reason why I'm going to rinse it is because of the caustic soda. If you don't rinse it, that caustic soda, if you use it and sew any cloth and then you put it on, when the sun becomes very high, it begins to itch your body. So that is the reason why I'm going to rinse it in this normal water.
Hello, thanks a lot for joining us for an update of the news. President Muhammadu Buhari has arrived in Maiduguri, Borno State capital, a few minutes ago. The president, who arrived in Borno earlier, was received by Governor Umar Zulum and some other states and federal officials. Now, meanwhile, the Chief of Defense Staff General Lucky Irabor is upbeat about ending the war against terrorism in northeast Nigeria and return of lasting peace to the zone. General Irabor gave the assurance when he led the service chiefs and the Inspector General of Police on an operational visit to headquarters of the Theatre Command Joint Task Force Operation Hadinkai in Maiduguri.
War in the northeast against ISWAP and Boko Haram will end. The greatest challenge is that peace has not returned to the entire northeast. And that's precisely what I've just spoken to, that we will do everything possible to bring it to an end.
The United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, UNCCD, and believes that natural ecosystem can reduce land degradation and restore hope. In commemorating the World Day to Combat Desertification and drought this year, Nigeria shines as a beacon of hope with successes in the Great Green War.
Complementary to that is the Agency for the Great Green Wall. And in the last meeting we had, involving about 11 African countries that are in that area, Nigeria has recovered more degraded land than any of those countries.
That was an update of the news. Join us again at 1 for another one.
This is the network service of the NTA.
On the show today, cake makers in Abuja celebrate womanhood in grand style. A cake artist marks the 10th anniversary of her craft. Thriving and excelling as a food handler unveiled in Abuja. All women are classy, regardless of their race, religion, and ethnicity. They are symbols of beauty, hard work, resilience, and creativity. In all walks of life, you will find women excelling in enviable positions and places. Bakers in Nigeria who are mostly women are doing marvelously well in their craft, but locally and internationally. This is Baker's World on NTA. Here we inform and educate and inspire you to be the best you can be in your creative endeavors. My name is Funke Oyele. Many thanks for watching. We'll be right back. Some time ago in Abuja, a group of creative bakers organized a cake show to celebrate womanhood. Let's enjoy the recap of the show.
As people come out here to display their work of art, you see a particular job that is nice. You can be inspired to learn from such a person.
Being in the same professional craft and business is no big deal to these women. They believe that successful and intelligent women don't compete. They only complement one another. Celebrating womanhood was initiated by Taiwo Abe, a diligent baker and businesswoman, and other creative women supported her to make the show a success.
Some of us put our heads together. Now, how do we celebrate ourselves as bakers? You know, and most of us are women. So we deem it fit that in this show, it's better we celebrate ourselves for the hard work we do, for the great task, you know, we engage ourselves in before we could deliver any cake job.
The event was an avenue for bakers in attendance to exhibit creative pieces, connect, network, and learn new techniques in cake decoration. Take a look at this showstopper. It is a massive 4-tier cake with an edible picture of an elegant woman. Each of the cupcake around the circular base carries the picture of various successful women. Notable women's pictures that you see on the cupcakes include Mrs. Funmilayo Ransom Kuti, Professor Dora Akuile, Feyikemi Arola Shafe, Lame Mercy Negedu, Adebimpe Oladimeji, Modupe Ola Oluwomakon, and a host of others. You'll agree with me that this is indeed a creative masterpiece. This is another creative piece that speaks volume. It is a 3-tier cake with a woman in a traditional attire crafted on it. The artistic painting of the sunset as well as other accessories on this cake keeps me wondering, what does the cake artist intend to project?
Looking at the work, a woman actually goes through a lot in life. It's something that is worth celebrating for a woman. The design, I basically was able to show like 3 stories. One was a sunset, that's in the morning, the first thing a woman does, and that had colors of orange, yellow, the natural background of the trees. Then I had another scene where I showed a woman going to a waterfall to fetch water from the river. And I had another scene at sunset whereby women they are walking till
beauty and fashion accessories peculiar with